Story 1. I traveled for 45 minutes on a train to see her. The whole time we were texting. Everything was fine. We had been dating for 3 years. I got to her neighborhood and let her know I was about 5 minutes away. She never replied. I thought she was going to open the door when I got there. I knocked. No reply. Called. Straight to voicemail. I texted. The messages did not go through. I waited for 3 hours hoping she would come with some explanation, but nothing. I went home still expecting she would call or text and explain what happened. I never heard from her. We had mutual friends and I asked if they had talked to her, but they were vague. So she was alive at least. After about a month, I accepted we were over. I threw myself into new activities at school to forget her and try new things. My school has a rowing team, so I went to one of its competitions and met a girl from the competing school. We stayed in contact and started dating. About 5 months into it, she came to me and said, "Do you know who this is?" It was my ex's Instagram profile. I told her who she was, and she said, "Okay," because she started following me and watching all my stories, but she never comments or anything. Somehow, my ex had found out I had a new girlfriend and was stalking her on social media. I told her to just ignore my ex. I married my new girlfriend a few weeks ago, and she posted a picture of our wedding rings. I am very private and have no social media accounts, and she doesn't have any pictures of me on her Instagram. We didn't have a wedding. We just went to City Hall and signed the papers. Anyway, she posted the picture with the caption "Mr. and Mrs. my last name." About 10 minutes later, she noticed she lost a follower. She suspected it was my ex. She went to her profile and saw she had been blocked. To this day, I have no idea why she broke up with me, but I don't care for a very good reason. Story 2. He pressured me into sex as someone 10 years my senior. I was 17 at the time. Looking back, it was very wrong, and I am sorry my brothers did not find out and confront him. He died of a grand mal seizure several years ago. Some friends asked if I was going to his funeral, and the answer was no. Story 3. Man, with the exception of the person who was stabbed in the head, I must be traumatized because none of these seem that bad. Story 4. She ended our relationship through a text message, and 48 hours later, she updated her profile on a social media site to show she was in a new relationship. I can laugh about it now, but it was not funny at the time. Story 5. She told me for 3 years that she was just a friend. Then she dumped me with a text message saying she was moving in with him. He proposed to her 2 weeks later after telling me for 16 years that he never wanted to get married again. She turned out to be a total psycho and almost destroyed his life. If I believed in karma, I would say he got it. Story 6. Broke up with me because she said she was too busy for a relationship and then immediately opened a Bumble account. Story 7. Beat me up a whole lot. Isolated me. Came across 3 states to stalk me with a loaded gun at 2 a.m. I ended up in Cripple Creek Jail in Colorado for 30 days. How do you like me now, loser? I have a life and you do not. It has been 48 years. Go away. Story 8. Threw a bottle of Coca-Cola at my head after I had fallen asleep following 36 hours of being awake. Granted, she was in the hospital experiencing labor pains, so I can let it slide. Story 9. He cheated on me. Lied to my friends and his friends in the same group about me, causing them to dislike me. Then he left for another city when I was pregnant. I had to have an abortion alone, and I was open about every step. He sent me a picture of the chicken he was eating while I was undergoing the abortion. He also tried to start a relationship with a woman who had just had a baby before my abortion. Story 10. Took the children away, kept them from me, and left them with her parents. I went out and enjoyed being single while her parents actively kept the children from me. Story 11. I supported our family as the sole provider. She felt guilty and never told me about her actions. She was on a dating app before we even broke up. She was with other men within a week. She kicked me out of my apartment and took everything except my clothes. It was a really awful thing to do to someone you share a child with. Story 12. Got transferred to a different state, bought a house, closed in December, and in January he told me he was leaving. I asked why we bought the house, and he said that now I had to move to Missouri with the kids. I told him that after 23 years, he didn't know me very well if he thought I would move to Missouri because of a house. And I didn't. I made him take the house that I picked out in the divorce, so he and his partner ended up living in a house I selected. Story 13. She disrespected me, became emotionally disconnected, and must have been planning this for months. 2 weeks ago, she initiated a break, pushed me away, disengaged completely, broke up via text, and blocked me. This was a nearly 3-year relationship. She never gave me closure, and it has been mentally tough to accept. Story 14. When I was 21, I received a Mario statue from Nintendo. I did not get to enjoy it before she cried about never receiving anything in the mail. I was not confident in my relationship, so I gave it to her. I honestly thought it would come back to me like a boomerang. No, she gave it immediately to her brother because she was broke, and it was his birthday. Story 15. I would wait in the middle of the night at my house until I noticed him. He is a low-key stalker and a potential abuser. Story 16. Acted like I had money coming out of my ass. I stated multiple times I am broke and cannot afford this every week or so fast. Bigger purchases require saving. Asked multiple times why we even got together if I stated I am not rich. She said she did not care about money, yet every decision required me to be a programmer with a salary of 4,000 euros a month. Picnic in the park? Sorry, not interested. Expensive dinner in a restaurant? Sign me on. Paying her rent, food, fuel, car maintenance, debt, pension, clothes, and outings. When I say, I cannot carry this, I cannot afford you. You earn as much as me. Why am I paying for you? This is not a partnership. This is the lowest form of being a man, paying for the attention of a woman. Story 17. The day I ended things, she took my clothes. 3 of my favorite skull t-shirts, favorite hooded flannel jacket, favorite underwear, Henley shirt, black and red skull bandana, and my favorite items. Then she proceeded to block me without returning my belongings. I could live with her leaving my life because she was a horrible person. But seriously, my stuff? Can't be serious. Story 18 had a midlife crisis. He told me at 10 o'clock on a weeknight that he was unhappy and done with our marriage, with absolutely no prior warning, no attempt to work on our issues, and no communication. Surprise. I'm leaving you. I found out later it was for another woman, whom he is now openly seeing in our very small town. Story 19. He invited me to his brother's birthday party and proceeded to act as if I didn't exist or was invisible. They had some family friends over, people they hadn't seen in a couple of years, and when they asked who I was, he said I was just someone renting a room there. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were so embarrassed by his actions that they told me directly to break up with him. I was too naive, he was a walking red flag. Story 20. I told everyone we both knew that I was harassing and stalking him after we broke up. I had not attempted to contact him even once. In fact, I had blocked his phone number and some social media accounts. About a year later, he admitted that he made that up, but it was stupid at the time. Story 21. Convinced me to get an abortion even though I did not want one. There are worse things that he did, but this one stands out to me. Story 22. Cheated on me with his neighbor multiple times. On the day we broke up, they had sex, and now they have a baby. Story 23. I ended the relationship after she was unfaithful to me. She then persuaded my very troubled older sister to take her own life. This left me with serious difficulties in trusting others and letting people into my life. Story 24. I kept pictures of my mother, who had passed away, to use as leverage to get me to talk to him. I finally realized I was never going to get them back and gave up trying. He still messages me if I make a new account and forget to block him. It has been 10 years. Story 25. He took me to a Super Bowl party hosted by a girl he dated and then completely ignored me for 6 months. Story 26. Pushing, hitting, and slapping me, spitting on me, manipulating me for 5 years. Accused my father of cheating, slandered me to my parents, called me unspeakable names, and made me feel so alone that I lived in my car for days at a time. Took the cats we got together and gave me false hope that I would get one back, only to take that away. Story 27. Loved bombarded me, then dumped me before work and told everyone, before I got a chance to figure out what was happening. Story 28. He insisted I had a rape fetish no matter how much I told him how traumatic and horrible it was. I think he had a rape fetish. To add to that, he would only become aroused if I did not want to participate or was crying. I had constant urinary tract infections and pain. He was my first, so I thought it was normal. Story 29. 1. Told me and made me believe I was asexual because I was not getting physical with him. Was grieving a friend, and he told me I was acting like that person was my boyfriend. Story 31. Got a 13-year-old pregnant while we were dating at 16. Full force punched me in the back. Smoked in my dad's truck after I asked him many times not to. Told me he used to deal methamphetamine and then broke up with me the next day. Abandoned his first child and spoke negatively about the mother. He got the worst prison chicken scratch tattoos you have ever seen. I shared all this with someone I thought was a friend, and she called me judgmental and said I faced the consequences after getting punched by him as a teenager. Story 31. He punched me in the face, and I blacked out. I believe he kept hitting or kicking me while I was down because when I came to, I was in another room. I was in a lot of pain the following day. It was very traumatizing. I was around 25 at the time. Story 32. We got an apartment together, and after a month of living in it, she told me she never actually loved me and was hoping her feelings would change. She still had feelings for her ex. She was also cheating on me with her ex right before we broke up and lied about it. Story 33. Mine was relentlessly cheating on me with several older and less appealing women who were sex workers and meth dealers supplying his habit. He would bounce back and forth between me and one of them every single week. All of this happened after he got me evicted from my apartment, where I had lived for about 5 years. He caused one of my cats to be killed by forcing it outside, supposedly did not bury the cat, and just tossed it in a garbage bin. He also fixed my car, which had been broken down for 2 years, only to give it away to 2 of his friends who were meth users wanting to squat in the apartment I was being evicted from, even though they were only supposed to stay 1 night. Then, once I finally got somewhat comfortable at the house he moved me to, he started disappearing on me to meet up with the escorts and meth dealer women, being with me 1 week and then vanishing for 4 to 5 days, sometimes just a day or 2. When that stopped, I later found out he started seeing a 20-year-old woman. We were both 32. Then my mom suddenly died, and he decided that was the worst time to start cheating on me again and have me find out about everything he had been doing. He kicked me out of our home and was sneaking the 20-year-old, who was a heroin addict, around the house while I was there, with them sleeping and engaging in sexual activity in the attic literally above my room. I could hear every single word I said, every time I cried, every time I pleaded with God. I left, and now he regrets his decision, but I do not. He can have the woman he wanted so badly. My therapist told me to either write a book or make a video series based on the men I have had in my life, not the best collection of people. Story 34. Called the police and lied that I was beating her. Then she used it against me to get money. Fortunately, I have not had any contact in years. She recently had a son with someone unfortunate. I feel for him and the child. Story 35. Walked out on me on my birthday. Left his cat, his car, and all of his belongings. Expected me to take care of everything. Story 36. She falsely accused me of perpetuating violent behavior against her and the children in an attempt to gain the house. She failed, but it took me 3 years and about $150,000 to disprove her lies. Story 37. She constantly called me names and was condescending. She berated me harshly because I was not familiar with art when she took me to a museum. I do not hate it. It is just not my hobby or interest. Story 38. One told me he wanted to slice my chest open and watch me bleed while we were having sex, and another made me play dead during sex. Story 39. They lied the first time they got grounded just because they wanted to break up. Then we got back together, and the second time they faked a message from their dad messaging me. Story 40. Asked for a divorce via text message after 10 years. following her cheating and denying it for years despite the fact that I was in the next room the night it happened. Story 41. Used me for sex and tried denying it. I wasted 8 years of my life for someone to see me as a sex object. Story 42. I forgot to mention in my comment that she also threatened to harm herself if I left her. She had previous attempts marked as proof hidden all over her body, which I did not find out about until we were nude. So, I had to endure her emotionally and mentally hurting and manipulating me. Otherwise, she would harm herself. If I could redo life at 19, geez. Story 43. Bought a house with me after 5 years together and then didn't change. When I finally broke up with him, he destroyed my entire house and left. Now I have to somehow pay all the bills and remodel the place. Story 44. I broke up with him, and he literally tried to end his life. He called me from the mental hospital, and I felt so guilty and hurt. My reason for breaking up with him was that I caught him lying to me about sleeping with another girl. Story 45. She asked me for a break because college and working were overwhelming, but then she started seeing another girl. Story 46. Literally would not let me use the bathroom without accusing me of cheating because I like to scroll on my phone when I am in the bathroom. Story 47. She pulled out my only surviving plant that we bought that summer. Now I'm still killing and pulling out roots of mint, just out of spite. She took the animals and I never saw them again. Story 48. He tried to tell me he never agreed to adopt. It was the most obvious attempt at gaslighting I have ever seen. We had witnesses who said, no. Story 49. We were married for 20 years, and he decided he did not know what he wanted, so we ended up getting a divorce. That was one of the worst times in my life. Story 50. He did not tell me he had herpes simplex virus type 2 until after I started developing symptoms and had to go to urgent care. Now I am stuck with it for life. Story 51. We were at a brewery in my city. It was a cute place with outside seating and a chicken and waffles food truck. We were sitting outside and had our dog with us. I asked him to grab some chicken and waffles for us, but he didn't want any. He got some for me but forgot to mention it was the spiciest one on the menu. I like spicy, but this was burning my mouth. I began choking a little and got up to go inside and get some water. I was wearing a black top with straps and wasn't wearing a bra. I'm a C-cup, so it wasn't like I was busting out of my top. As I passed a table full of guys, one of them said, "Nice tits." It was like a movie. Everything stopped, and that was the only thing I heard. I paused and then kept going, not fully understanding what happened. I went back and told my ex for the sole purpose of him maybe talking to the guy or suggesting we go somewhere else. I told him how uncomfortable I was. He then said, "That is what you get. Look at all these other girls around. They are wearing bras. You were asking for it." When it was time for the bill, I asked if he could go inside and pay it since I felt uncomfortable and didn't want to go past that table again. He said, "You are comfortable enough to not wear a bra, so you can get up and go in front of them again." Then he proceeded to make me get up and go inside and pay alone. The sad thing is we didn't break up until a year after this happened. I will never be that girl again. Story 52. I was freshly 16 and he was 17 or 18 at the time. I do not remember exactly. A friend of his had figured out that he had sex for the first time. We started dating when I was 15. He decided to scream at me in public on the way home about how everyone was calling him a pedophile and a creep because people at his school found out we were dating. Story 53. I brought home a kitten. The cat seemed to like me more. He had our terrier playing with the kitten, which we always kept apart. No sooner did I say, "Hey, don't let her in the room," than she attacked and killed the kitten. I do not believe that was an accident. Story 54. She threw the biggest tantrum when I told her I wanted to go sober. She did not deserve to spend the rest of her life with a boring boyfriend. Story 55. Left me while my dad was dying 3 weeks before Christmas. Told his family I was an alcoholic, which I was not. He had people over all the time, and we had one bin for trash plus recycle, so even if I had a bottle of wine over a month or two, stuff piled up in the garage. I came to my family to get away for a night after I left a note. We used to leave notes to each other every day, mostly saying I love you and have a good day. and my I love you note was in the trash. Because of all the lies, his family hated me and treated me poorly at my father's wake. He then proceeded to pack up all my stuff that he put in storage and then sold the storage unit. These were not just material things like clothes I had never used, but sentimental things from my father that I can never get back. He told me he would give me money. That never happened. My parents had bought us furniture, and he sold it all and kept the money. He dated my friend, telling her we were divorced when we had just separated. I asked him why he had even married me because he previously told me that I was the love of his life. He said it seemed like a thing to do. He got remarried quickly to his fourth wife and told her that she was his third because he didn't want her to know how many times he had been married. He still calls me because he wants to have sex with me. I hope he gets karma someday. But I was the fool who gave him all the money my grandmother left me because I was in love. Once the money ran out, so did he. Story 56. Tried to take my paid-for house out of my name. She did not know I had an alert set up with the tax office to contact me. They know me and knew my grandfather since it was his house that he quitclaim deeded to me before he died. She gets out next year. Story 57. Even after meticulous planning and communication, he shows up ridiculously late on the evening of the first ever symphony I had ever attended. The Final Fantasy VII Rebirth show I was looking forward to all year. We somehow managed to find a place to grab food and drink, but had to cut things super close to make it to the show. The rest of the evening went fine and quite pleasantly. The following Monday, he completely stopped responding. He would not answer my texts, and I could see him active on Instagram all that week. To this day, he will not communicate what his issue was. Story 58. She stabbed me 6 times in the arm when I called emergency services to prevent her from attempting suicide. She was 21, I was 16. I am still traumatized by this. Story 59. I remember a conversation with my ex right after we had broken up. We were catching up about our new jobs, and in a moment of honesty, I told her that I missed her. What followed completely shattered me. She snapped at me, started abusing me over texts, called me the biggest loser, and said she never loved me. I was devastated, crying, begging her to stop, but the insults kept coming. That night broke something inside me. I couldn't sleep, and though it has been years, the memory of that conversation still haunts me. It was the moment that pushed me into depression. I skipped work for weeks because I simply didn't have the strength to get out of bed. She did apologize the next morning, but by then the damage was done. It took me years to fully understand that what she did was not something words could fix. Years later, she tried to reconnect, hoping we could give it another chance. But by then, I knew I could never trust her with my emotions again. People often think that saying hurtful things in the heat of the moment is normal, that words during a fight do not leave lasting scars. But the truth is they can be life-changing. That experience left me carrying constant anxiety, and to this day, I struggle to open up and connect with new people. I have never quite felt the same since. Story 60. Didn't let me sing my part of a duet that I wrote on an album for which I wrote almost all the songs. He sang both parts. Story 61. Accidentally dug up the ashes of our cats that we had buried at her family's place, and then had her mother ask me if I wanted them. Thankfully, they were buried in secure containers, so I know they were not tampered with. They are safely reburied now in a place she cannot know about. This was 5 years after we broke up. I am not even angry, as that is clearly what she wanted. She is dead to me. Story 62. They hid that they had a child with their ex from me for 4.5 years. I only found out when I snooped after the breakup. Story 63. He ended our marriage by saying he had been unhappy for some time, only for me to later find out he had been cheating and left me for another woman. Story 64. He beat me up with his friends just because I refused to be compliant and open our relationship so he could sleep with a girl I thought was my friend. Story 65. He left me and openly explained that he wanted to pursue another girl. I was really naive in my late teens and let him come back after he realized he did not like her as much as he thought. I could not trust him after he returned, and it eventually ended our relationship for good. I have a vivid memory of being at a stoplight with him. I asked if he was bored of me, and he stayed quiet for a moment before saying yes. Story 66. I am unable to assist with that request. Story 67. Never went out with me anywhere except twice, claiming to have a very strict and Christian mother. I let it slide. Then she went 120 kilometers away with her college friends, including boys, for a day-long vacation. Story 68. She kept having her ex come on family trips. She told me it was okay because he had always come in the past. It made me feel like I was the ex coming on their family trips. Story 69. Got drunk and became verbally and emotionally abusive regularly. It would have turned physical if I had not left when I did. He once physically dragged me out of a place while on vacation because I found out he was cheating and confronted him. He proceeded to scream at me, punch my dashboard while I was driving, urinated on someone's car door handle, and threatened to beat me before passing out drunk while I lay beside him quietly crying, praying he would just go to sleep. Story 70. Told me everything I wanted to hear just to break up with me because staying with you would be people-pleasing. Story 71. Stole my diamond cross necklace and made me believe I lost it. He gave me hell for losing it, but I found it around his secretary's neck. Story 72. He encouraged my disordered eating and body image issues. He would reference his previous girlfriends, all of whom were plus size, and say that having sex with them felt like being crushed. He would puff out his cheeks mockingly to imitate them. It was clear that he would feel the same about me if I gained any weight. He referenced their bodies far more often than any man should. I developed a constant feeling of nausea from being around him and could hardly eat. What should have been a normal meal portion I stretched into 3. He pushed me into situations that aggravated my anxiety. I lost weight and worked out obsessively. His weight, of course, was exempt from any of his controlling behaviors. It has been quite a few years now, and I am still working to be at ease in my body. Story 73. He picked me up and threw me to another corner of the room 3 times. He had a lot of physical strength to do that to me. The not-so-funny thing was that I had funded his life. Gym memberships, supplements, everything. Story 74. Caught him in bed with the neighbor's fiancée. I had just had a miscarriage a month before, so I was already in an awful emotional state. He spent the whole night trying to gaslight me about what I saw and had the nerve to tell me to apologize to her after she ran out of the house. The next morning, he tried initiating sex with me and became angry when I turned him down. I do not know what happened to him, but I hope he is miserable with his life. I wish him the absolute worst. Story 75. I attempted to harm myself while we were living together. The next day, while I was working after sleeping for about 30 minutes, a man gave her a ride to his house. She turned off her phone and was unfaithful. She returned later. This happened about a year ago. She moved out permanently 3 days ago. Story 76. Got a girl pregnant a few months after I left home for school. He lied about it for a year. When he finally told me, he said, "It's just a baby," and asked me not to let it come between us. Story 77. I bought presents for a friend's new baby, but it turned out the baby was actually his child from an affair. The whole situation was very upsetting, and I felt foolish when I realized the truth about the presents. Story 78. One ex-girlfriend started to avoid spending time with me or talking to me. When she did, it was pretty short and she was acting a bit distant. Then, without communication for a while, she texted me, "Read your Skype." There was a long voice message breaking up with me, full of excuses people overuse, saying she needed time to herself. This was around my birthday. Not even a week later, she was engaged to a man. Another ex-girlfriend disappeared out of nowhere and didn't talk to me for about a month. Then she came back as if nothing had happened and said, "Hey babe." We talked for a while and I forgave her. During one of our conversations, she let something slip, and I asked her about it. She actually had a husband she had casually forgotten to tell me about. She was surprised and angry when I broke up with her, saying, "I thought you would be okay with it." These are just 2 examples of my ex's mistakes. There are worse stories, including one that is very dark. Story 79. Went to hang out with his friend on the night of our first anniversary, when I had just moved cross-country to be with him 2 days earlier. I could add many more things to the list from the next decade I was with him. I do not know why I put up with it for so long. Story 80. She always wants to talk to me when she is sad, but never the other way around. I am done trying to be there for her. Story 81. For days after he broke up with his ex-girlfriend of 4 months, he asked if we wanted to sleep together one more time before our divorce was final. Story 82. Oofed. We were landscapers together. He started his own business and I did general labor for him for £10 an hour. We were given £20,000 by my old school friend's dad to do their garden. My friend's mum had died a few years back, and they finally wanted to have a nice space to relax in and get back outside. My friend's dad was a postman, so the £20,000 was a lot of savings. He is a really lovely person as well. Halfway through the job, we had torn up their entire garden with diggers, pulled out all the plants, and torn down the fences. My ex-boyfriend had not paid me anything yet, and I was broke. He was acting a bit strange. Long story short, he had snorted the majority of the £20,000. I had told my ex not to take the job before he accepted it if we could not follow through because I liked my friend and wanted to maintain a good relationship with the family. My friend thought we had basically stolen the money and run. It was an awful time in my life. Story 83. She returned to her former partner who had punched her in the face, despite telling me that I was the better choice and had made her feel good about herself. Story 84. I called the police to my house and told them personal matters I had confided in him, which he had no right to disclose. Story 85. 2 of them grabbed me, the other had a pornography addiction and would masturbate in bed while I slept. They were really unpleasant individuals. Story 86. He showed up at my door crying and begging me to take him back. He said if I didn't open the door and let him talk things out, he would drive himself right into a tree. A week later, he was dating someone else and she texted me threatening to show up at my job. Story 87. Encouraged me to go out with my friends, but everything I did would start a fight over text or bring up urgent drama that completely took me out of the present. Eventually, I knew that going out would lead to a fight, so I ended up going out less and less. Emotional manipulation at its finest. Story 88. Torn between him accusing me of cheating and dumping me after he cheated on me. He had plans with me, but when I showed up at his house, he ignored me and did not let me in. Then he proceeded to sit in his house and talk to other women online while I was outside. Story 89. He did a lot of terrible things, but the worst was when he overdosed and died, leaving me to raise his child. Story 90. Cheated with the next-door neighbor. I realized I owned both cars in my name only, so he crashed my truck, which I had inherited from my dad. He took the insurance payout money. He begged to have a loan in his name only to build credit and got a brand new car. He kicked me out the next day. His affair partner was the car salesperson, so she also got my money. They got married the day after our divorce was finalized in April. But do not worry, karma got him in the end. She got pregnant by an officer and dumped him by Christmas the same year. Go Army. Story 91. She constantly told me she was going to kill herself to destroy my mental health. She pressured me into having sex when I was clearly uncomfortable, lied to our mutual friends about me punching a wall because I was frustrated, and falsely claimed to all of us that she was schizophrenic for attention. She admitted this herself. She used a dating app to find a sugar daddy openly in front of me. She was emotionally and physically abusive to one of our mutual friends. All of this happened during the 1-month relationship I had with her. I learned a lot from that experience. Story 92. They have all their meaningful and emotional conversations with others and only have explosive arguments with me. Forget that. Story 93. I paid for us to go on a 6-day vacation to Turks and Caicos. On the second night, he got very drunk and started a fight over the dumbest thing. I was just people watching at dinner, and he accused me of staring at other men. He then screamed at me in the street and said he would pack his bags and fly home the next day. I was the one who paid for his flight. Story 94. This is not even the worst part. My ex got very drunk one night during a fraternity party. He screamed at me for no reason, kicked me out of the house, and started trying to hook up with every other female there. One of them took the bait and they made out, but that was as far as it went. I texted him the next day asking to talk. We were supposed to leave together for Florida that weekend, and obviously we had a lot to figure out. I was way too nice in my text message. I told him if he needed space, that was fine. I just wanted to hear what happened from him, since everything I found out came from one of his friends. I said we could either work on us, take time apart, or get closure. No answer. I called him twice, no answer. He deleted me from all social media and changed his status to single. He completely ghosted me. I took a couple of weeks to cry it out, but quickly realized how toxic he was. I became angry that I wasted my whole first 2 years of college being completely devoted to someone so awful. I started going on dates, going out to the bar, and living the college life. Well, my ex got wind that I was not sitting at home depressed and missing him like he thought I would. He called me at 3 a.m., drunk, wanting to talk. Like an idiot, I went to see him. He proceeded to berate me and call me names, all because he could not believe that I would get over him so fast and that I did not try harder to earn him back. Yes, you read that right, me earn him back. Again, I had done absolutely nothing to him the night he broke up with me. I wish I could say that moment was the last time we spoke. It was not. We got back together for another 4 months before I absolutely snapped on him and broke things off for good. Story 95. She said she was going on a trip a few hours away with girlfriends. Turns out she flew across the country alone with a male friend. She called me in a frenzy because she forgot to finish and submit homework for a college course. So I stayed on the phone with her as she dictated her assignment. We were up most of the night. She was grateful. Then I received the cell phone bill with about $600 in roaming fees because, at the time in 2002, we had a regional plan. I called AT&T and argued that she was not across the country but at a girls' retreat. They had tower data that proved she was where they claimed. I showed it to her and she admitted the truth. I cannot believe I stayed with her after that. But if I had not, I might not have met my wife of 15 years. Story 96. I met and married a new man who blocked me from my child's life. Before this, I was able to see my child whenever I wanted. As soon as he came into the picture, I was gradually phased out. Story 97. He promised we could afford to put me through college when he got his Doctor of Philosophy degree. We were together long enough for him to have earned his Master of Arts degree and to prepare for his dissertation defense for his Doctor of Philosophy degree when he told me he needed his significant other to be his intellectual equal. I later found out he had already met her at a conference months or years earlier. He gave me 2 weeks to move out of our apartment because he was bringing her to stay at his place, and she was to meet his family and friends during his graduation celebrations. Within 2 months, he had dedicated his dissertation and successful defense to her and asked her to marry him. Weeks after he graduated, he moved to her state where she worked as a professor. One day, about a year later, he called me in a frenzy, seemingly wanting to rehash the good times we had shared. It was too strange. I soon found out through social media that he had gotten married in the exact dream ceremony he and I had planned for ourselves on the same day he had made that frantic call to me. Story 98. Too many incidents to decide which one was the worst. He stole my car, threw things at me including lit cigarettes, his phone, and my phone. He became physical with me, lied, talked to multiple girls behind my back, stayed out all night, and blocked my number when he was angry. But I can't decide which incident was the worst. The time he left me stranded at a tattoo parlor in Las Vegas at 1 a.m. after I waited for him and his friend, who had crashed our 3rd or 4th anniversary trip, to get their tattoos, but he couldn't sit through mine. Or the time he called the police to have me arrested after he became physical with me, but he was the one who got arrested, then played the victim. Or when he left me at the hospital to return to work while I miscarried my first pregnancy alone. He is a terrible person all around. I stayed with him so long and endured everything because he isolated me from all my friends. I was also financially dependent on him for most of our relationship. I frequently had to change jobs when he went through his cycles because it affected my work performance. When I became financially stable, I left. Story 99. Got me pregnant and then ghosted me when I had complications and ended up in the emergency room for an emergency procedure. He also updated his dating profile while I was in the hospital. Story 100. I found out she was sleeping with another man. So when she went to school, I packed all her belongings and drove them to a storage locker near where I believed the man lived. I changed the locks and sent her a message with the information about where her clothes were. I left an intimate item prominently displayed on top of the pile. She is now suing me for $15,000. Story 101. Drunkenly bought a rose in a bar while we were listening to live music. I thought it was so sweet until he gave it to another woman. I grabbed it from her and hit him over the head with it. Petals flew everywhere, and I left so fast I did not see them land. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.